Hi, how are you today, Shakti?
Hi, Kristen. I'm good. It's wonderful to see you.
So good to see you on this beautiful day. Thank you for joining me and taking some time to do this interview.
Yes, of course. And you can hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you just fine. Thank you. Well, I would like to start out by mentioning that when I first started looking at this concept of a 300-hour yoga teacher training, I thought to myself, now who is the most experienced yogi I know? Who has been practicing for a very long time and has been teaching for a very long time and been studying yoga for a very long time? And you, my friend, bubbled right up to the top because you are, I believe, one of the most experienced teachers I know.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm honored.
Yes, well, it truly is an honor to bring you up to Steamboat to lead this teacher training, and I'm very, very proud to offer that and to have you at the helm and taking the lead on this exciting event. And what I'd like to talk about is some of your background. And I understand that you've actually been practicing yoga since 1998, so good 20 years. And then you started teaching a couple years later in 2000. And you have an incredible educational background in yoga. You have a PhD in contemplative mythology and yoga psychology. And your work is in mythology and depth psychology. And you also have an education in traditional Eastern arts with nearly 2 decades of yoga and meditation and massage therapy and Ayurveda and 5 elements. And all of that combined has brought you to this incredible place where you can speak to and you can teach others with using stories and symbols and insights and these practices that give meaning to yoga as a practice, as a philosophy, but also how it relates to daily life. And I find that so incredibly delicious.
Thank you. Yeah, hearing it sounds a little overwhelming.
Yeah.
Hearing it back. One of the things I've really been working on this year is consolidating everything into its potency, because with all of that diversity, sometimes can come a little bit of scattered energy, where you're just like, whoa, where do we begin? This is such an immense topic. And there's all of these doors really to the world of yoga. And so where do we begin? And so one of the things I've been working on quite a bit lately is consolidation. And that word I love because it means both organizing, getting rid of things that aren't of service and pulling together all the things that are useful, and then potency, the power that comes from that depth of organization. So yeah, that's kind of my mission.
Well, I love that. And that actually is a very nice segue into my first question for you, which is, what is your why? What led you down the path of yoga?
Yeah. Why do I practice? Why do I practice?
Why do you practice? And also, and why do you teach yoga?
Yeah. Well, I teach as an extension. My why for teaching is an extension of my why for practice. So I'll start with why I practice. And that is simply just, yoga wakes me up. Yoga reminds me of who I really am, which is, who am I really, is a embodied expression of infinite love. And I believe you are that too. We're all, every human is in participation. We're in participation in this human experience of universal consciousness at play. Every moment of every single day, everything we do, we are in participation of this dance of the cosmic oneness. Most of us, however, much of the time, are living, or I should say many of us, most of the time, are living completely oblivious to this fact, right? We're just kind of going about our business as you know, with ego personalities, and forgetting our intrinsic connection and oneness with universal source. And so without that remembrance or that realization, we don't feel whole. We feel less than whole. And so we're always, you know, attached, looking for the other pieces, the missing pieces, and attaching to things, and then averse to other things. And all of these attachments and aversions create a lot of discomfort. And so yoga means union, right? It means the coming together, the merging of things. And I teach that this union is the merging of the finite and the infinite. It's the coming back together of nature and spirit, of ego and soul, of you know, body and mind. You think about kind of these dualities, the finite, or the things that seem temporal, and then the things that seem infinite. Yoga is if you have those things, you know, nature and spirit, for instance, yoga is the symbol between them that combines them. So yoga would be, is it a plus sign? Is it a greater than or a less than? Do you see what I'm saying? And in some yoga philosophies, the idea is that, you know, maybe in some teachings, the body is less than the spirit, and the body is really not material, it's an illusion, and we are all spiritual beings, you know. And once you reach that enlightened place of yoga transcendence, then, you know, you will have no identification with this physical body, and not be able to relate to these mere mortal animals, you know. But and some teachings might say that, you know, there are ideas out there too, people living in a reality that the body is all there is, that there's no ghost in the machine, right? And so the non-dual teachings of Tantra teach that we are both body and spirit, that nature and spirit are actually equal. It's an equal sign, and that all of nature, even our ego expressions in our bodies, are a direct artwork, essentially, of universal consciousness at play. So that's why I practice, because it wakes me up to that reality again and again and again and again. When I forget myself as that divinity, as that love, then the practices bring me back to that realization and that remembrance again and again. And that's when, you know, I can become more comfortable. Even in the discomfort of the human experience, I become more comfortable in myself. I become ultimately more comfortable in my relationships with other people, my relationship with the world around me. And yeah.
Oh, that is a beautiful explanation. Thank you.
Thank you.
So 20 years ago, back in 1998, what led you to yoga? How did you find yoga?
Yeah. Well, to be honest, my first introduction to yoga was as a child. I remember there was a woman at my church who taught yogasana in the basement, the church basement. And my mom would practice also in the living room. And back then it was very much an exercise, the yogasana postures. In fact, my mom just called them, doing her exercises. And, all the butterfly pose and, the television show on PBS and all the things that were kind of going on in the 70s with yoga. And at the same time, back when I was a child, I had a naturally spiritual bent, and I was writing journals to God when I was like 8 years old, And so the foundations of both the physical postures and the spiritual relationship were both there, present in me as a child. But it wasn't until going through, tons of other choices throughout my teens and then my 20s that led me to all kinds of really uncomfortable spaces and, compromised places and also really amazing human experiences too. By just grace, all of the elements aligned, and I ended up becoming a instructor and a logistics coordinator for Outward Bound. And it was in nature, in the Canyonlands and on the top of 14ers and down by the river, that I was working with these incredible course directors and instructors for the Colorado Outward Bound School, and they were all really into yoga. And so I started practicing with them, and it was the combination of nature and yoga. It just really hooked me in a time when I really, really needed it. I needed to be reminded, of my intrinsic nature, my true nature as one with the infinite. And so I'm just so grateful, I look back and I think about, before that I was really kind of staring down the barrel of substance abuse. Fortunately, I didn't have, I must not have an addictive personality because I didn't get addicted to anything long term. But all around me, I had friends that were, their lives were devastated, deteriorating, and people who even committed suicide, died of overdose. And so it was just that perfect, deep desire within me for some change, some opening, that little seed that had stayed, from that little girl that was writing the journals to God and doing exercises on the shag carpeting in the 70s. It was like that recognition, as soon as I saw them tree pose by the river, it just reminded me, it called to me, and I immediately remembered, oh yes, that's what I want.
Oh, thank you. So a couple of years after you started into your practice, your more regular practice, you decided to go get your yoga teacher training certification and began teaching in 2000. So what inspires you to teach to other yoga teachers and students?
I'm kind of an introvert. I'm really an introvert. I get my energy from quiet alone time. And it's a challenge to connect with other people and to share. My husband and I were just talking about this morning, actually, how really communication is taking what's in your heart mind and trying to express it in a way that places it within the heart mind of another human, right? That's communication, whether it's you're creating art or communicating through music. You're taking, the emotion and the experience essentially that you're having and trying to communicate it, trying to transmit it to another human. And so I think there's a combination of things that drew me to teach. One is that I was having such an incredible experience of transformation, awakening, this realization of the relationship between the finite and the infinite within me. And I wanted to be able to transmit that to other people. And also, I found it to be such a huge challenge, and I was actually quite afraid of it. And I think that there was something in me that was driven to rise to that challenge and to see, how can I share this in a way that is meaningful and useful? And my mom and I used to have really in-depth conversations. She's a Christian believer, and I was immediately attracted to the non-dual teachings of Tantra. I had gone to a workshop with Douglas Brooks, non-dual Shaivite teacher, who brought teachings to Vail way back in 98 and 99, and immediately drawn to those teachings. And so my mom and I would have these in-depth conversations, where we just talked about our relationship to the infinite and how that relationship plays out in our everyday lives and how valuable it is. And in our interactions, I became more and more, it was like practicing, in our interactions, because we loved each other so much. We wanted what was of use for each of us as individuals to have some use for the other person as well. And so to work out a way to hold inclusiveness, to be able to say, to honor another person's mindset and another person's perspective. And from that place of honoring and allowance, to be able to share. And so I think that's the biggest thing. The challenge of it, and the excitement, the deep desire to share that love.
Oh, very nice. Thank you for that. Well, what do you think, or why do you think Move Yoga is a good choice for a 300-hour yoga teacher training?
The Move Yoga, our 300-hour. I'm really excited about it. I'm excited for so many reasons. I'm excited about who's showing up for this, right? I'm excited for Jamie Elmer bringing all of the physical aspects of the practice to light. I love Dana Saray, and she has an incredible way of bringing in the prana, Maya Kosha, and all of the subtle body aspects and teachings and practices. And then Livia Shapiro and I both attended Naropa together, and she is just an incredible voice for applied yoga psychology. And so it's the people, really, I'm just so excited for these women, powerful, beautiful women, voices of just divine love, and what they have to bring to the table. I'm just, I haven't seen anything really like this. And so I'm so excited to be involved. And then, of course, Steamboat. I love Steamboat. So every single weekend I'll cherish any time that I can be there.
Oh, absolutely. Well, Steamboat loves you too.
Thank you.
Yes, it is quite an offering. It is an incredible collection of women who have a vast array of expertise that I am so thrilled to have you and to have you be willing and interested to come and offer this to our community. Something that I think is important is your opinion on why you think 200-hour certified yoga teachers should get their 300-hour certification.
I don't think they have to.
Well,
there are so many 200-hour yoga teachers out there. And I think there's a lot of different reasons that you might take a 200-hour yoga training. A lot of times people come into yoga for personal enrichment. And then, like me, they feel drawn to rise to the challenge, to communicate that discovery to other people. But, you know, if it's not, you know, if a 200-hour teacher is just feeling comfortable and that's where they want to stay, I think that it's absolutely an entryway, a doorway. They're like an entryway teacher. You know, they can lead people to the mat and help kind of get the whole experience going. But I think that for a 300-hour level experience where people are going to be diving deeper, you know, it takes just more education, like anything else in life, more practice, more education, opening more and more. I know for myself, every single thing that I learn opens the door to a million things that I don't know. Every single time, everything I learn is like another door opens to infinite potentiality. And so the more that we continue down that road of, you know, a lot of it has to do with collecting tools, collecting words, to be able to help share this this transmission. Like I said, we as teachers have committed, if that's what we want to do, to taking the experiences that we have relished, you know, and transmitting that opportunity to someone else. And the more tools that we can collect to do that, the more powerful it can become. The more that we can consolidate those tools and organize them, you know, the more powerful it can become. And, you know, going back to when I was saying I worked for Outward Bound, I often think about teaching yoga like leading outdoor trips. You know, you're on an outdoor excursion, there's so much beautiful nature all around, and the opportunity to have an experience is really up to each individual. You can't make a person have the same experience that you've had, obviously. But if you've gone down that trail several times, then you know all the little, you know, points of interest along the way. You can point out some little natural elements, maybe little flowers that grow on the side, or you know, you can keep people obviously safe, and you can help them explore the practice in a way that is even more radiant and has even more potential for transformation. So a 300-hour training just kind of, it's like an outdoor guide, just practicing, you know, going down that trail time and time again and becoming more and more versed in the experience that can be had there.
Oh, I love that. I love adding some more tools to the toolbox is always a good thing.
Yes.
Well, one thing I'd like to add is that you did an incredible job of developing this curriculum. And what impresses me most is how you were able to take 4 very important aspects of yoga and divide the curriculum into those 4 areas. And we found instructors who specialize in each one of those areas. And I would love for you to speak to that a little bit about the 4 different areas that are the areas of focus for this particular training.
Yeah, yes, thank you for bringing that in. So Jamie Elmer is bringing in elements of soma, which is the physical body, and the anatomy and the alignment principles and manual adjustments and all the things that go along with the physical body. Throughout my teachings, I found that, you know, there's a real need for a recognition of the how yoga can be a structural therapy for instance, you know, knees or shoulders. And it's a very, very powerful way of connecting to the practice. And so Jamie is just, I mean, she has it dialed when it comes to yoga anatomy and physiology, and will be bringing a lot of important tools for yoga teachers to be able to adapt their classes, and just deepen their awareness of the physical body. And then we have prana, which is all about the subtle energy body. And the sweetness of Dana Saray is such an amazing match for this. Dana's, you know, any one of us can probably teach the entire training, but Dana has this exquisite way of sharing about the subtleties of yoga, what's happening in that energy plane, the bridge between the physical body and the mind. And then Livia is our psychologist. She brings in the applied psychology aspect. So she actually has a practice of somatic psychology. So she's going to be bringing in even more of that relationship, now taking from the pranamaya kosha into manamaya kosha, the mental aspects of how does our body and our mind relate, and how do movements actually release emotions. And so she's going to be helping to guide us through that. And then I have been working so much to bring, you know, more of the stories to life, philosophy and theory through the myths of yoga and the symbols and the archetypes, and looking at the meditation of, you know, how can we awaken, you know, as I said before, really truly awaken to our infinite potential in a way that is grounded and that serves us in everyday life. And so many of the stories of yoga, the mythologies of the text, and the philosophy and the sutras, for instance, give us so much guidance on exactly how to do that and where to look inside.
Oh, that is so lovely, and so excited for this, and cannot wait to have you up in Steamboat to lead this amazing, incredible, really once in a lifetime opportunity. And so once again, on behalf of all those in Steamboat who are going to take part of this incredible journey, we thank you, and thank you for your time this afternoon in doing this interview with us, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Yes, yes, Kristen, thank you. And yes, everyone out there, join us. It's going to be an amazing year, and I'm really, really excited. So please join us. And Kristen, thank you. I'm so honored and really stoked.
Yeah. All right. Well, see you soon.
Okay. Bye.